The fraction amounts that we're comparing today do not have denominators that are related through multiplication. So for example, 4 is not a multiple of 3, 6 is not a multiple of 4, 8 is not a multiple of 5, 8 is not a multiple of 3. We're going to really have to think about the multiples and find a common denominator. This just takes some practice, so let's go ahead and get started. We're going to find the multiples of 3. Let's go ahead and find maybe the first 3 or 4. We can just skip count by 3s. 3, 6, 9, 12. I'll stop there. 4, 8, 12, 16. Do you see a common multiple? 12. So that means 12 would be a great common denominator. Now, when we're talking about the least number, sometimes on the list you'll have 2 or 3 numbers that would work. And it's usually easier to just pick the lowest number, so that's why it's called the least common denominator. So here we go. We want 12 as our new denominator. We'll go ahead and find equivalent fractions. So 3 times 4 equals 12. And so 2 times 4 equals 8. And then 4 times 3 equals 12. So we'll multiply 3/4 by 3/3. And we get 9/12. So now we have 8/12 compared to 9/12. We know that 9 pieces are more than 8 pieces. So this is a less than. The original amount for 8/12 was 2/3, and the original amount for 9/12 was 3/4. So 2/3 is less than 3/4. Let's go ahead and look at number 2, 3/4 compared to 4/6. If I want to find a common denominator, I'll have to list the multiples of 4 and the multiples of 6. So we have 4, 8, 12, 16, 20, 24. Then we have 6, 12, 18, 24, 30. So I noticed that 24 is a common multiple, but I also noticed that 12 is a common multiple. You could pick either one of these multiples for a common denominator. We typically just go with the lowest on the list. That makes it easier in the end. We have smaller numbers. So 12 is a common number to have as a denominator. So 4 times 3 equals 12. That puts us at 9/12. We've seen that before. And then we have 6 times 2 equals 12. So 4/6 is equal to 8/12. So 9/12 compared to 8/12. 9/12 is greater than 8/12. Remember that 9/12 is the same amount as 3/4, and 8/12 is the same amount as 4/6. So when I figure out that 9/12 is greater than 8/12, I know that 3/4 is greater than 4/6. Go ahead and finish this page and watch the video again to see how to do number 7. So on numbers 7 through 10, and even on the word problems, we'll be creating equivalent fractions. We'll be finding that common denominator and then creating equivalent fractions so that we can compare. So you'll follow the same process here as what you did earlier. There just isn't the helpful hints. So just remember, we're looking for the number that could be the common multiple, that common denominator. So let's go ahead and start thinking about our multiples of 8 and our multiples of 10. You'll have to write small or even get a piece of scratch paper if you'd like. So we'll go ahead. We've got 8, 16. 8 times 3 is 24. 8 times 4 is 32. 8 times 5 is 40. I'll stop there. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50. Let's make equivalent fractions with a common denominator of 40. Let's start with 5/8. So we'll think about 5/8 times something will give us that equivalent fraction with a denominator of 40. If I multiply 5/8 times 5/5, we end up with 25/40. Wow. Okay, so we can write that right here. I think I'll also write down 5/8 just so I know those are equivalent. They are the same amount. Okay, then over here, let's come up with a fraction that's equivalent to 6/10. So 6/10 times something will give us that equivalent fraction with a denominator of 40. 10 times 4 is 40. So 6 times 4 is 24. So we have 24/40. Remember that it's equivalent to 6/10. Now, if we had the fraction bars, we would find out that these are really, really close to each other. In fact, when we change to 40ths, we can see that they are only one piece off from each other. So 25/40 is just a little bit bigger than 24/40. Imagine how teeny tiny these pieces are with 40ths. That's how close the 5/8 is to the 6/10. Those are really, really close to being equal. Just remember to list out the multiples, find a common multiple, and then create your equivalent fractions.